Okay, looks like we're recording. This is class number 5. Unfortunately, I did something wrong with the recording for class number 4, notice of race and sailing instructions, and it didn't record. So we are SOL on that last class. So I may get around to restaging that class, but but anyway, we're discussing chapter 8 and 9 today in the race management book. And Brad Heffron's with me today. So unfortunately, it's just Brad and I here today. But we'll have a good class, a good discussion.
Hi, folks.
Yeah, Brad says hi. Let's see. I was, and it goes into that in the chapter 9, doing a recap of races, and I thought maybe it might be wise to do a little recap of our last sailing class or sail last Saturday.
Okay.
Brad, do you got anything to share with us about your observations about how that PRO went?
Yeah, it was interesting to me to see just how distracted people can get on the boat or on the race committee boat, for the simple reason is that you're doing a lot of different things. And the first time that Leroy went over, I probably didn't catch that in time, and all of us didn't catch it.
Right.
And he was probably over for a good 3 to 5 minutes, if not longer, before we got to him.
Yeah.
So we should have people at least scanning the fleet like every 30 seconds, at least watching, have somebody
whose job it
is to just scan the fleet,
right,
and see if there's anybody in need, because it did take quite a while for you guys to get out there on the pickup boat. So.
Yeah, because once we discovered that he went over, then it takes time to get our stuff together into the John boat and then motor down there to him.
Right.
And I've also observed that over the years that where you start getting complacent, you're chit chatting about whatever your day's topic is, and you lose lose focus on what is going on out there on the water, and folks go over and you don't see them.
Yeah, and we need to make sure that the people that are scanning are just not looking at the leaders.
Yeah.
Look at everybody out there.
Sure.
Especially the people behind, because 9 times out of 10, the people behind are novice sailors in the first place.
Right, and so they're going to go over.
They're going to go over a lot easier.
Yeah, a lot easier, exactly.
So that was the one thing that really got to me, because Leroy went over it like 3 times.
Right, yeah.
So after the first one, I was watching him pretty close. Second thing is we have to make sure that our communication devices are synced. I tried calling a couple of times and had no answer.
Right. Yeah, we cannot hear those radios, especially when the motor's running. There's just too much ambient noise for us to hear. Yeah.
Is there any way that we can adjust those to get a squawk or something? At least just a high-pitched squawk.
Something
that is going to get your attention.
That I don't know. I just don't know enough about those things. But it has been a constant problem for a long, and we've used a variety of different things, but even under the best circumstances, I can't hardly hear anything on those things.
Okay, yeah, because in chapter 8 they were talking about the communication devices
right.
for the race committee boat and the chase boats. And that's one of the things that we probably need to work on a little bit closer, maybe have some drills or something like that in the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
Whatever. So at least we have prior knowledge, at least we can be focused on something, like that.
Yeah.
Just the communication process. That's just my thought. The other thing as a PRO was the shortening of the course.
Well, we didn't shorten the course. We practiced changing the mark position.
Changing the mark position. Yeah.
Because shortening and changing is actually two different things. Yeah.
Yeah. We changed the mark position, but then I had to make a choice because you had brought it about 500 yards closer to the boat and dropped it again, yet I was seeing a front coming through.
Sure.
And so I thought, I got to make the choice. They're stopping, or they're finishing downwind instead of going around that mark that you shortened and coming back up to finish. So I had to make that choice. And luckily we did, because right after that, it got really hairy.
Right.
And people were
and I think that was a smart thing to do, because those were cruisers and they're all docked clear down at the end of A arm, and it's going to take them time to get their boats down there, and put away. So yes, you have to be cognizant of who's out there sailing, and you got to give them enough time to do something to get themselves safe. We saw that in the BPK. Here we are sailing down an A arm, and it took I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes for us to get from A arm or back down to the dock. So if that had come in that storm had come in any sooner, we would have been sitting out there in the water, trying to get those boats off, back. So you do have to make those decisions early. You can't get behind on it.
Right. And that's about what my big takeaways were during that time period. So,
what I observed was it's really important that somebody assume responsibility to be the head, the boss, the leader on there. I was purposely trying to step back and let you guys handle that, and there was some confusion as Wes didn't want to exactly take the responsibility. You didn't want to take the responsibility. Marla didn't want to take the responsibility. There wasn't anybody in absolute control, and that demonstrated or manifested itself in the start, because there was some confusion with the timing and the flags and all this kind of stuff. Right. Somebody's got to take control and say, okay, I'm going to be the lead. And then start assigning jobs to different people. And Wes was a little uncertain as to what flag to put up and in what order and whatnot. And that's totally understandable, because he's never done it before, and that comes with practice and whatnot. Right. So I really think somebody needs to take control and be the person in charge.
Yeah, I liked it when you said, "Brad, you be the PRO."
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Well, I know it's like I'm throwing you to the wolves, but
that's why we had to postpone the race, folks.
But no, I did that on purpose too. I wanted something to happen, and so that's why I went over there and purposely sabotaged the timer. And say, oh,
you did that on purpose.
I did. I went over there and pushed the button on purpose to sabotage.
Now it makes sense. Okay.
It's because I wanted to do a postpone, and because until you do it a couple, 2 or 3 times, it doesn't click. Right. So I did that on purpose, and so that we could postpone.
Got to be in the water to learn how to swim.
There you go. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And then I threw in this business about changing the mark. So I mean, the more stuff that comes up, we do. Yeah. So I think all in all, it was a very productive day. We Wes got some experience on how to do a recovery, especially with a Sea Scow is not an easy boat to recover. If it's a pretty heavy boat.
That's right.
The one good thing about a Sea Scow is it does come up dry because they ride so high. But they are easy to go over. And anyway, so I thought it was a pretty productive day. Okay, getting into Chapter 8. Some of the things that, as my talking points here, is when we are running around the race course with a John boat, we got to be cognizant of the wake that John boat throws out. If you're running around, the wake will disturb the competitors in their sails. So try to give them a wide berth, and if necessary, slow down on the John boat so it doesn't throw a wake and disadvantage somebody over somebody else.
I just thought you were wasting gas.
No, I wasn't trying to. Wasn't out just joyriding. I think we got Bernie has really put together a pretty efficient system for signaling and notifications on the boat. I don't, of course, I don't have a lot of experience with a lot of other other clubs and how they do their things, but I can't really think of any improvements that I would make. I really like the idea of the pole going up because it, as opposed to a flag that you have to, run up the flagstaff.
Absolutely.
All that kind of stuff. We can snap that in there, and there's very little time between non
1 second.
It's 1 second. It's very, very quick. We do have the ability to dislocate or take the committee boat loose from the anchor, and because it's got that float, and then we can run off and do something with the committee boat if we need to do a recovery, and then come back and then hook up the committee boat right back onto the same with the anchor. We don't have to pull the anchor all the way up. In case the committee boat needs to go do something. There's been discussions to put some kind of a windlass on that committee boat road. Because all of us are getting older, and sometimes there's not some young stout person on the boat that can break that anchor out of the mud. It gets to be a bear, especially if the wind is high and we got 2 anchors on there, because we do have that ability to put a second anchor on there, and that sucker's heavy. So when you're pulling up,
if ever that's a problem, it's an easy way to get to pull those anchors up. Because all you got to do is come up to where you can't pull it up anymore. It's straight down. You tie it off to the cleat, and then you run the motor straight forward.
Yeah,
and it pulls them both right up out of the Danforth right out. So.
Right.
Just got to know that.
Yeah, you got to know that, and but you still have to. Like I said, if it's got 2 anchors on there, that I think both those 2 anchors together are probably about 50 pounds. Yep. So yeah, it can be a chore.
Gotcha.
But I know Gordon Alloway has been championing the getting us a windlass and put on there somehow to pull that anchor up. So maybe that'll get. I don't know if it'll be some kind of hand windlass or an electric windlass, but something to help help get those things up. There has been some talk about replacing the committee boat altogether. It's getting a little long in the tooth. And John is, as a matter of fact, at the last board meeting, John mentioned, maybe starting putting some money away for a new committee boat.
Funding for a new committee boat.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know exactly how old that motor is on there, but I know those things are real expensive. But there's been some talk, and so then if they are going to replace the committee boat. Then with what another pontoon boat, or maybe some kind of a deck boat, or whatever. I don't know.
For that lake, I would say the pontoon boat works the best.
Yeah,
it's a good platform.
And I like having a cover over it
Yes.
For inclement weather, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But there has been some beginning conversation about a new committee boat.
Who owns that current boat?
The committee boat,
the
club owns the boat.
Not Bernie's.
No. It's a club boat.
Okay.
How quickly that thing that gets replaced, I don't know. So
yeah. Okay.
In the past, also, there's been some talk about replacing the John boat with a more friendlier, like a Zodiac type thing with the rib or the rib boats type thing, because it's much easier to get somebody out of the water in one of those than what we're using.
Right.
But again,
you're talking cost.
Yeah, it's
those
cost.
things are about you get a 16-footer or 14 to 16-foot rib boat, and it's going to cost you probably a good $14,000 or $15,000 at least.
At least, yeah, and plus the motor.
Plus the motor.
Yeah. So but those discussions have at board meetings. Those discussions have been,
and they do recommend those types of boats in the
book. Yeah,
in the book and material.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
How quickly those things happen, I don't know, but we'll see. Marks. Let's see. Line set, a midline boat. We don't do that very often here. I can't remember ever putting a midline, a boat in the middle of the starting line. We just don't usually set a line so long that that it's necessary or advantageous to do that. But that is a possibility if need be. And what it does is we just park a boat right in the middle of the line, and then I guess we have to make it sure it's set in the right spot so we can get a sight, so that we can sight both ways to see if a boat is over early or something like that.
For this lake we wouldn't use it.
Yeah,
the line is never that long.
Right.
I can see it for a offshore race.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But for the lake sailing. No.
Yeah, and I can't imagine, but they do talk about it in there. We do have a tetrahedron mark, which is the little pyramid shaped mark, and it is in our sailing instructions a provision to allow for a long course and a short course. And so we would set two windward two number one marks, and upwind marks. So the tetrahedron is used for the short course, and then for the longer course we use the regular ball mark. And so the faster boats, the Sea Scows, the Thistles, and that kind of stuff, that they would use the long course, and then the short course it would be for Sweet 16s, lasers, windmills, A and B groups, right? We haven't we just never do that very often, but it is in the sailing instructions for that provision, and so we don't want to forget about it, that it's there. And
do we want to use that in the 60th Regatta? Something like that? Something to think about.
Something to think about. It does a couple of things. It kind of starts spreading fleets out so that they have an ability, to spread things out and make so the fleets can compete in cleaner air.
Well, especially if we have a lot of 16s coming in, Sweet 16s coming in.
I would bet we would have probably at least 25 or 30 Sweet 16s.
If we have that, we may want to set a short course for the 16s.
Or just a completely different course. You can set it like an I course for a Sweet 16 group, and then like an F or something,
right,
which a triangle, and then that really spreads boats out. So. That is definitely a possibility to set different courses for different fleets, and with our course board configuration where we've got columns, each
right. We could do that.
It's very easily to set that up. Yeah.
Let's think about that. Talk it over with John.
Yeah. So anyway, they talk about the flag size. We have, I think we have a nice sized flags. They're what, the 2 foot by 2 foot deals, and I perceive them to be plenty visible even from halfway across the lake.
Yes.
I think I don't have any issues seeing our signals.
Yeah.
I know Bernie has mentioned in the past that that he's gone and PRO'd some races and they got little bitty tiny flags that you couldn't see 10 feet
yes.
away.
I remember him saying that.
But our flags are nice sized, and I don't see. And then of course got to keep in mind the flag is the official signal, that the sound that we give off, the horn or whatever. That's only a courtesy thing. If the horn doesn't work or whatever, it's the flag. The flag is the official signal. I, as a personal choice, I like to use different types of sounds for different signals. Although I don't believe it's required in the book. But for the changing of the flag signals, I like to use the boat horn or an air can horn.
Right.
But like for a over early signal, I like to use a different sound, like a whistle. To mix it up so that it's not that it's completely distinguishable. That we've started the race, and but if you're over early, it's a different signal altogether.
Right.
But that's I think that's a personal choice, and that's one that I like to do.
I think that leads to a better response.
Yeah.
There's no
there's no confusion
that
they started the race, but oops, did I miss a signal or something? Let's see. Okay. we did this a change of course, the change of the next mark, the red, white, and blue flag. Was it the? It's not the end. It's the.
There's their red, white, blue, red.
Well, that's one of the change in the change of course, or change them.
Change of mark.
Yeah, change them. Oh, it's the C flag. What was I going to say about that? You were on the committee boat, and
Right.
Wes and I actually went and did that on the John boat. So the procedure for that is you've got to get that done before the first sailor goes around the mark. So if we're going to, for example, last week we were going to change the position of the number 3 mark. So before they got to the number 1 mark, we had to get up there and put up the signal. And so we posted the C flag, and then when the first boat approaches the number 1 mark, then we gave multiple sound signals. We took a whistle and we blew it pretty loud, and then we held up the appropriate card. And there's a negative card, a plus sign card, a green triangle card, and then a what's the other one? It's a red square, I think it is, or a red rectangle card. Let's see. It's these signals right there. The green triangle card means we are moving the mark to starboard, but it's as the course is set as you're facing the number 1 mark. So if you're moving the course to starboard, that would mean we're moving it to the right. So the perspective is when you're on the committee boat looking upwind to the number 1 mark.
Okay.
So moving it starboard would mean moving it to the right. Moving it to port would mean moving it to the left. And then, of course, front back means either moving it forward or further away. And you can have multiple moves. I mean, you can move it. You can move it to the left and further away, or closer, or whatever. So you can have, the green triangle and the plus sign or whatever. So you can combine things to tell us. But the key point is you got to have that flag posted up there before that first guy gets around the mark, and so that he knows that, hey, the next mark has been moved. You can visualize that. I'm not sure I'm explaining it very well, but you get around, and then as successive boats come around, you give them a whistle or multiple sounds that hey, that we're making that move. Let's see, our timer. I know other clubs, specifically the club over at Lake Quivira. They've got a fancy little machine that basically you just push the button and it does all the timing, and it makes all the sounds automatically. You don't have to think about it at all. And obviously that takes all of the guesswork out of running the race. How it works, if there's some other reason that there might be a problem that you might have to postpone. I don't know exactly how that works. I guess you would just turn the darn thing off and then reset it again after you've done the postpone. I do know those machines are out there. I think our system works reasonably well. I mean, it takes a little practice to set that clock up.
Right.
And make sure it works. There's some apps that you can download. I have an app on my phone. It's an Android version, and it does a nice job of setting the the timing sequence, and you just push the button and it counts it down. Wes was looking around on his phone, and he's got an iPhone, and there was a really neat app that he was able to download, and it was nice in the fact that it not only counted down the time, but then once the race started, then it started counting back up the time. This app does not. It just does the straight the timing sequence for the start of the race, and then it just re-goes for another race. Which comes in handy for our purposes because we can do 2 or 3 races. So, but there are different apps out there on. So you might look and see what works.
Yeah, I have not downloaded any of those apps.
This one you got an Android phone or
yeah.
iPhone? Okay. Yeah, this one's called what's it called? RC timer from L-36.com. I don't know. And it does have a provision in it that you can put words in there to say, 1 minute to the start, or 1 minute to L flag, or whatever. But there are apps out there that kind of can help do different things. Other than a stopwatch or a stopwatch function on the phone, I don't really have a good.
You just type in sailing race timer, and you got about 10 different apps right there.
There you go. Yeah. So you might download 1 or 2 of them and see what what might work easy for you.
Race and lap timer looks like it's got a 4.6, so looks like that would be the better one.
Yeah. Let's see. Our compass on our boat is not the best. We probably could stand to invest in a nice hockey puck compass. But we're only given vague references as to where where the number 1 mark is at. So I think we're easily 10 degrees off of what. But normally we don't have multiple marks up there that it makes a big issue. Have you played with our wind indicator?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Handheld.
Yeah, it's that little little gray or little red tubular thing. And how accurate it is, I don't know. There's 2 different scales. If it's 0 to 10 mile an hour, you just hold it up. But then if you speculate it's over 10 miles an hour or thereabouts, then you put your finger over the top of it, and then the wind blows off the bottom, and then it blows a different scale.
Right.
I assume that's reasonably accurate. I just happen to know that at least on this lake, when the wind is starting to getting up in that 15 mile an hour range, you're starting to see whitecaps on the water. So that's my gauge. If I see whitecaps, I know that it's blowing at least 10 or 15, and if there's no whitecaps, it's something less.
Still under, yeah.
Yeah. But That's but we do have a wind indicator. The wind stick. I think the wind stick is probably the best thing. Of course, we got that little wind telltale on the front of the committee boat, but when that wind stick is invaluable when it comes to setting marks, because you go up,
yes.
you go upwind and you throw down the the number one mark, and then you hold up your wind stick and then point. Then you can get a visual as to where you want to drop the number three mark. Now. This lake does have those issues where the wind will turn, and it turns a substantial amount especially if the wind's coming down out of A-arm or coming out of Sailboat Cove. It'll turn 30 degrees.
Yes.
So you got to kind of play with that when you're setting marks, but. And when a little trick that I do when I'm setting, trying to position the line set for the hippity hop for the start line, is I just hold my hands out at 90 degree. I point. Well, this is that's into the wind, so 90 degrees out is that, and try to get a feel for getting the line reasonably square to the wind. So that's simply what how I do it. Having a little laptop computer on the committee boat. Of course, it's dangerous as hell. It's going to end up in the lake one of these days.
At some point in time, probably. But, unless you put a tether on it.
Having a laptop computer, there's a lot of issues that a laptop would come in handy. And one of them is our discussion about having some history on all of our sailors out there, so that if something happens, we got a contact name and number, and something to
medical issues,
any major medical issues,
those kind of things.
All that stuff could be kept on a laptop, and it could be kept in the cloud, so it doesn't have to be stored on the laptop. We just need some way to access it.
That's a very good point.
So at that point, if that information was in the cloud, maybe we could just access it through our phones. I don't know.
Yeah, we might be able to access. Maybe tether it to the website.
Yeah.
Somehow, so we can click on that and race information. And we have that available to where we just, any one of our phones can tether to a laptop.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have Wi-Fi access. Okay. And maybe that's the way to do it.
Right.
To get that set up that way, to where we can log right into the website, and any information will be secured on our website.
Yeah, yeah.
And that way we don't have to worry about.
We just need a way to access it at that point.
That would be the way to do that.
Right.
Is to have a link or have a link on the website or on our website that once we log in, we have access to that information.
Right. When Bernie fell and broke his leg, I happened to come on scene just as they were wheeling him down down the dock on the gurney, and he says, "Well, call Carol Ann and let her know that and all this kind of stuff." I had no idea how to call. I don't have her phone number on my phone.
Who is Carol Ann?
Well, I happen to know who it is, but yeah, you wouldn't know who Carol Ann. Yeah. So this is a major thing that we need to address when we get back to safety issues is contact information and some way to access that, whether it be with a laptop or our phone,
phones or
something,
whatever,
but
or even a tablet.
tablet, something. But yeah, that's something we're going to need to revisit when we get it back to safety issues.
Okay.
There's stuff that just comes up all the time. I mean, there's like an octopus. It just goes everywhere.
Well, that's why I think that it's very, it's very good that we're going through this class, because we can identify things in our current situation that need to be strengthened.
Right.
So I'm glad we're going through all this.
And the fact that this book is well written as it is, I mean, it prompts you to think about these things, so that it can,
and to ask those questions.
Yeah, ask these questions that it's hard to come up with all this information. There is a rule book, a current rule book. And the NOR and the SI on the committee boat. You know where it's at? It's in the red box.
Yes.
So that information is there. Should you need to be able to access it for want to know about something.
And I usually carry one with me anyway.
Sure.
Book.
Yeah. Okay. I think that pretty much does have covered all the talking points I've got for Chapter 8.
We talked a little bit about radios before we and we need to adjust some of those radios and maybe have something that to improve the communication process.
Right,
so
right.
Maybe it's a situation where I throw up a flag or something. Maybe it just signal you somehow instead of saying, "Hey, you."
Well, going back to the whistles,
four quick blasts or something like that.
Something. Now on the committee boat, there is a siren up there on that.
Yeah. Okay.
So a blast with the siren would be. I don't know how the other. The sailors would react to a siren. I mean,
yeah, they may think that as being a
emergency thing.
Yeah.
But you are absolutely right. Communications from the committee boat to John boat is just horrid. We've never been able to come up with a decent solution to that. And I don't understand why. I mean, VHF radios out. They use them on ocean-going boats all the time. And
when I'm out on the John boat, I actually stuff it
in your shirt,
right in my shirt. It's right there at my ear.
Got it.
And that may be something that we.
Yeah, I've been. We've always just stuck it on the
arm, and then you can't hear it.
And you can't hear it.
But I usually put it right in.
Yeah.
When I'm wearing a life jacket, it's right there on the top of my life jacket, stuck in between my skin and the life jacket.
Something.
Maybe even have on the use a canvas clip or something like that you can attach to your life jacket. Your 50.
I wonder about some kind of a light on the committee boat mounted up on the roof. Just a yellow warning light, and
that's easy. That would be easy enough, sure.
And flip on the light, and that means hey, look at me, type thing.
Make contact.
Yeah. Quit just sitting out there in the water chit chatting and look at us because we're trying to get a hold of you.
Good point.
Okay, Chapter 9.
Before we get into Chapter 9,
there's
one other thing that I was going to ask about. Is there any reason that we're not using rangefinders?
I don't know. I don't know of any reason why not to.
Okay.
And that's
pretty inexpensive.
Is that to measure the length?
Distance,
measure the distances? I guess just from my working with Bernie for a long time, we just never set courses so exact. We don't try to get a true isosceles triangle or something like that. I know that the book it does talk about trying to get a real equilateral triangle where all three legs are the exact same size and all that or same length, but it's not been my perception that we've ever tried to be that exact.
You can pick them up fairly cheap at any golf range.
Yeah. Other than for purposes of trying to get some real precise courses, is there any particular reason to have one, or
just to keep the courses in a within a certain distance? I mean, last week we had the course. The downwind mark was almost at the dam. And that was a long ways away.
Well, yeah,
you could barely see the pin.
And that's kind of by design of that. The racing instructions for that event is that they wanted really long.
It was long.
It's what, almost a mile. A leg. But for cruisers, they kind of want to be able to just set the sails and lean back and drink a beer as it goes down the course. They didn't want.
For all you racers out there, you should not be drinking beer while you're racing.
There you go.
Just had. Make that point.
Make that point, yes. But anyway, they wanted courses essentially to transit one of the legs of the lake, whether it be A arm or B arm, and so consequently that the wind doesn't always cooperate with that, and as at least the last couple of times that I've done it, the start line is almost a reach. Reaching start because there's no way to get the line that be square, and they were just a one leg, just a reach and run the whole way. There's no tacking or anything, But that's that's essentially what they wanted, and so that's what our customers want. That's what we'll give them. Anything else on that? Okay, race day. I think Bernie does the same thing. As I start looking at the weather forecasts a couple of days ahead to see what we're kind of going to be up against. Whether it's going to be just hot as blue blazes, or is it stormy, or just all kinds of things. I use Weather Underground, especially for radar, so I can if there see where those storms are going and heading and that kind of stuff. And it seems to be pretty good. There is the airport, which is I don't know, 2 or 3 miles to the south of the lake here, and I know Pat Carr. He's a pilot, and he calls up information from that airport down there, but I don't know exactly how it's done. And you got an app.
Even shows the wind direction.
Oh my goodness, does it really?
Lake Chicomo, right there.
Oh, son of a gun. That's pretty cool. Yeah, good deal.
That's NOAA, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, is that NOAA?
NOAA, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there's lots of apps that folks can use, but the important thing is have a feel for what to expect as when we get ready to come out here. Whether television, looking at it on the night before to see what Gary Lezak is forecasting or whatever. It's a pretty good idea to have a checklist, to make sure that we haven't forgotten something. Check the gas in the committee boat and John boat, and whether the horn and everything is working. Check the equipment. Whether we got a broken flag stick, like it's the orange flag is got a broken stick on it right now. So having a checklist to go so that we don't forget something is a pretty good idea. We don't have one. Of course, Bernie's out there every week, and he kind of has a pretty decent idea of what's going on. But especially if we get into a situation, which I hope someday we will, that we have multiple people doing PROs and maybe some kind of rotation where you or I or I'm only doing race committee once every 6 weeks. Then we're not going to know that, hey, last week we broke a stick or something like that.
Very good point.
And you get out there and you find out, oops, the radio don't work, or the horns don't work for whatever reason. So we need to be able to communicate amongst all the PROs that, hey, look out for this, be ready to go.
Should that be something that we send out an email to the PROs or the people that are in the
loop?
In the loop,
yeah. Send
out an email like, okay, the radio's down, or this certain flag has been
broke or whatever,
or something.
The P flag we dropped it in the lake and it sank. All that stuff happens.
Yeah.
We need some kind of communication, and again, my hope is that we'll get enough people certified to be PROs that we'll be doing some kind of rotation, and you might not do a PRO for maybe once every 6 weeks or something like that, and you're just simply not going to be aware of what's happened 2 weeks ago, type thing. So we need some kind of system to address these issues.
Or even just having a red flag or a yellow card or something, a yellow flag, yellow card, whatever it is that you could attach to somewhere on the superstructure of the committee boat, as saying, such and such is wrong. This thing needs to be adjusted. Or,
right.
Just so those people getting down to the boat relatively early can address the situation.
Can prepare for it.
Prepare for it.
Right.
Maybe that's what we need to. Just a clipboard with a check sheet, or a
checklist to all these things are, and then hey, we got a red flag on this item. So yeah.
Much like what truckers do every day, they do a pre-inspection of their truck every day, of the rig, and then anything wrong, they write it down.
Yeah.
So something that we may want to consider.
Yeah.
All it is a clipboard that you can hang up or tuck underneath or wherever you want to put it.
Right. RC help. The way we've been doing this is I recruit folks, and I set up a schedule, and we try to get some help. I do try to be cognizant of who I'm putting on the boat. In other words, I don't want all 14-year-old girls out there on the boat. I want. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a 14-year-old girl on the boat, but I mean, they're not going to be able to pull me out of the water if I'm unconscious. I'm 225 pounds. So we need a mixture of experienced people, novice people, strong backs, and and just the octarian, the 80-year-old. So I try and make sure that I'm not. I'm staffing the committee boat with a nice mix of folks.
Right.
And unfortunately, I mean, you as a PRO, you're kind of stuck with whoever I put on the schedule on that boat that week. And if I do a good job, well, then your job is easy on the boat. But if I screw up and put somebody on there that isn't any good, or is more of a hindrance than a help, then it's a problem. Fortunately, I think we don't have too many folks in the club that are just problem people, and then the couple that I know of off the top of my head, I don't schedule them very often, or I schedule them with somebody that I know that they're compatible with. Yeah. It's because there is issues with personalities out there. So I try. I try to. When I send out a reminder email. Like usually like around Wednesday before their day. And give them a reminder that hey, I'm just reminding you of your commitment to work on the committee boat for July 8th, and then I give them I tell them to be here at noon. Try to be at the dock at noon, and then that Bernie will bring the committee boat around and want to leave the dock about 12:15, and I send the message out every week, and usually it works pretty well. Don't usually have too much problems with no-shows. When folks confirm back to me that that they're going to be there, they're usually pretty good. I mean, we've had a few times when something has come up, and then that's.
And usually, if there is something like that happens, there are people that are there that would like to go out on it anyway.
Just grab all. And I typically we're kind of overstaffed every week because I've got Bernie, and then I get 3 club volunteers. So there's 4, and then if you jump on the John boat or committee boat or Gordon's there, that makes 5, maybe 6, right. And that's just way more people than what we need. So now the Saturday stuff, I've only been really staffing it with 3 people. Well, there's only 3 I normally staff it with, and the reason for that is I don't perceive that there's usually with cruisers you shouldn't have to be doing a whole bunch of rescues. However, I was proven wrong last Saturday, so I may want to rethink my staffing situation and put some more.
Well, luckily you had invited Wes and I for that too. So that helped. So you're probably right. I probably should rethink my staffing issues with for the Saturday because when I really originally was
thinking this stuff through, I was thinking, well, this is just for cruisers. So we're not going to be, doing boat recoveries for a cruiser, and so
right. And we should,
yeah, we should. I mean, but then again, here now we got Sweet 16 showing up, we got Sea Scout showing up, and so consequently, we need to probably need to rethink that a little bit, but.
Right. Well, with only 3 or 4 cruisers in the fleet anyway, I mean, it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
So, yeah, where it's not like the Sunday races where you've got 15 boats.
Right, and they're all small boats.
They're all small boats.
Yeah. But anyway, that's kind of the back story of how all that works. And of course, I'm constantly, massaging the schedule. Right now, I think we got people scheduled up pretty much through the 1st of August. But then after August, I almost don't have anybody on the schedule, so I'm going to have to start recruiting people to come out and get on the schedule and do committee vote duty, and that's been a pretty much a standard procedure. Folks, it's hard for folks to forecast. I'll do September 12th. Race committee duty.
Mm-hmm.
Back in February, so it's too far in the future. So I'm usually working 6 or 8 weeks ahead and making sure.
And that's good.
Yeah. I don't want to get behind because if you do, then it becomes a problem. There's been a couple situations that in the past that I'll somehow cancel out at the last minute. And I remember one day everybody on the committee boat canceled except for Bernie, and so I sent out on Saturday afternoon, I think. I was like, holy shit, everybody is canceled out on committee boat tomorrow. I need some help, and the club stepped up, and we had all kinds of folks sign. Oh yeah, okay, well I'll be there. So that was a good deal, but that's only happened a couple of times. But and then of course I'm always ready and willing to jump on the committee boat to do it too. So. An RC briefing, not a bad idea to do an RC briefing before before you leave the dock, and again that kind of sets the pecking order. Hey, I'm going to be PRO today, and I want you to do flags, and I want you to do timer, and I want you to do. So it really cements in everybody's mind. Hey, what their duties are.
I totally agree. Totally agree with that.
Because then that eliminates that confusion of like we had last Saturday, and I think that was a wonderful exercise because it really demonstrated the timer started and flag hasn't gone up yet, and Wes is trying to figure out which flag to put up, and it was just a good exercise. So anyway, that worked, and then get into AP, the race committee's friend. At least that's what I call it, the AP flag. Boy, if anything happens, throw that AP flag up. Stop, take your time, fix the problem. And because it can be up for an hour.
You were definitely stressing that while we were on the boat.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Now you can throw that AP flag up within all the way up to like a nanosecond before the start flag comes down. Okay, I mean you can do it right up close.
That would really make people mad.
But once the start flag comes down, then your only option to restart or to fix a problem is to go ahead and abandon the race.
Gotcha.
Once the start flag comes down, the AP flag is no longer an option to you. You have to go ahead and abandon the race, and then start over complete. So put up the come within hail flag
Gotcha.
and do the whole start sequence over again. And the AP over, what is it? The AP over H or the AP over A. And I don't even believe we have an H flag or an A flag on a pole on the committee boat. It's something AP over H, which is that. Means the race is postponed, and further signals are going to be made ashore. And then AP over A is postponed and no more racing today, which would have come in really handy at the BPK,
yes.
Because here we are out there on the race course. We're down at A arm, and Bernie abandons the number 2 race. And so I know everybody, including myself, we're all looking at the sky and said, "Oops, this doesn't look very good." And so we all hightailed it back down to the dock and start pulling our sails down. But all Bernie did was abandon the number 2 race. He did not put up an AP over H or an AP over A,
Gotcha.
which would have told us that, hey,
after it blew through, we could have gone back out.
Because he was in his mind, he was going to do a number 3 race.
Really? Okay.
But we don't even have an H or an A flag on a pole.
Yeah,
we'd have to dig through through the box and pull it out of the flag holder and the spare flags, and then hold it up there or something.
Do we have spare sticks?
Yes. No, I don't even think that we got a spare stick on the.
We should look into getting a couple of spare sticks.
Yeah. But that is the AP over H or AP over A is, and the way that you would do that is you would just simply hold the 2 flags up,
Gotcha.
and make that signal. But we don't. It's. It never happens. It just never happened with us. But it would have been nice to have that signal. But no one would have known what it meant.
That is true too.
We could throw the AP over A flag up, but no one would have known what it meant.
Everybody would have gotten to the dock and then had to turn around and sail all the way back down to A arm in order to get. Get set up again.
Now I started pulling my sails down because I was thinking, the storm was going to come in, and I didn't want my sails shredded.
Exactly.
So that's why I was pulling my sails down. And then I see Lisa coming down. Okay, we're canceling for the day, and all this kind of stuff. And I said, oh, okay. That is the proper procedure, AP over H or AP over A for
Gotcha.
Signaling that. And then you got AP over any of the other pennant flags indicates postponing for a period of time.
Particular.
Yeah. So if you put up the AP with over top of the number 1 pennant, that would mean we're postponing for 1 hour.
Oh, gotcha.
And AP over the number 2 pennant, we're postponing for 2 hours. And you got all the way. And we do have the 1, 2, and 3 pennants on flags. So we can easily postpone for up to 3 hours.
So we could have done that in the BPK and
just postpone for 3
hours.
For 3 hours.
The problem with that is that you would have people sitting out there try to ride out the storm.
Yeah. Yeah, really, in the BPK, what we really wanted was the AP over H. Get them back to shore, and then give them further signals ashore.
Further signals ashore.
That's
right.
what we really should have done. That would have been the proper thing to do in that situation. But again, you know, we just don't have that situation happen very often, so we were kind of unprepared. But the AP flag, AP flag over any of these other pennants, you can postpone for you know, a number of hours.
Okay.
Then the N over H is all races are abandoned further signals ashore, which is basically the same thing as the AP over H. Except this is postponed and this is abandoned, and then the N over A is you know.
And again, you were saying, you know, once the race starts, you can't postpone. You've got to abandon. So that's
exactly
where this comes in.
Yeah, yeah. In the BPK, have we started the race, the second race? I don't.
We had not started the second race.
Okay.
Because I was waiting down there. I was late for the first race, so I couldn't, you know, I didn't get in under the 15 or under the 10 minutes. So I was waiting, just kind of circling out there for the second race, and of course then they
threw up the abandonment flag.
The abandonment flag, and so we hit the road back to the dock.
Right. So really, in that situation, what it should have been was the AP over H.
Right.
We wanted everybody to get back to shore, so postpone, and then further signals ashore. So AP over H would have been the best call on that, because throwing it up with the abandonment.
Right.
You know, it's a slightly.
Well, it was between races.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people that had finished already. And it was between races, and they were getting.
I wonder if there were still people on the course.
There may have been still people on the course.
Now, if there had been people on the course still racing, then it is abandonment.
It would be abandonment.
Yeah.
And then the race wouldn't have counted.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So, so if that was the case,
I think there was still people that were trying to get back to the start.
Yeah.
Or to the finish line. Because there was a couple of people that they
finished in place.
Finished in place, yeah.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then we had no race actually officially count, because if there was people still on the race course racing, and we abandoned, then that race didn't count.
So we didn't have the BPK.
It kind of sounds like that, but even even an experienced. I mean, well, it happens so rare that even an experienced guy like Bernie can make a mistake.
Sure.
On that. Because it takes a while to figure all this out. Should it have been the AP or should it?
Oh yeah. I mean, we have the luxury of time to discuss it.
Yeah, exactly. And Bernie was having to make it
in hindsight.
Yeah,
but when you're doing it right there on the spot, you have to know your. Yeah. You almost have to be a signalman in order to do all this stuff.
Okay, I think that is all I've got for.
Do we have anything on sailing instruction changes? And the time that we have to send out?
In number 3 on the, here's a copy for you, other sailing instructions.
Yeah.
If I can get a copy of it.
15 minutes before this.
Yeah, the race committee may amend the sailing instructions by posting the changes at least 1/4 hour before the start signal and hoisting code flag B. Code flag B is the red little I don't
Okay.
know what kind of flag that is. On the committee vote. So if we're going to make a change for and this is going to come up in the this invitational regatta. If we need to make a change on the in the sailing instructions at the skippers meeting, we would put the B flag up with a horn signal. I think it's two horns. I don't see. I'm pretty sure it's at least two, if not three. Anyway, so we'd put that B flag up, and then we would go up there and post the change to the sailing instructions, okay. And then that flag stays up until the last. Let's see.
After the last start.
Yeah, after the last start, so that everybody knows that hey, there's some kind of a change out there on the sailing instructions, and then we can give oral changes on the sailing instructions after displaying the code flag B at least a quarter hour before the warning signal. So 15 minutes before we put up the warning signal, we have to put that B flag in. And then we got to go around to each boat and make sure that we tell them the change to the sailing instructions. And we have to do that.
They're not required to come to hail?
I don't know if we have to make sure that everybody gets the same notification. I would assume that it'd be okay if they came to us, but if they can't come to us for some reason, then we've got to go to them.
Okay.
And get that information to them. But we have to make sure that each boat gets that information. So. Was there anything else? Let's see.
Anything else?
Race committee assignments. Confirm the next day. Going back over and talking about what went right, what went wrong, what could we do better. We talked about that at the beginning here a little bit. I think that's invaluable because at least for me, I learned by my mistakes. I've screwed up things terribly over the years, and I think they've always been great learning experiences.
Absolutely.
I never fault somebody by making a mistake. I always look at it as hey, it's a good learning experience.
It's an opportunity to improve.
Opportunity to improve, absolutely. So.
And I agree. I think the racing debrief is an important part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not just saying, "Hey, we're done. Let's have a beer,"
which is very tempting.
Yes, it is.
Especially when it's 95 degrees out there, and you've been baking in the sun all day, and you're tired and whatnot, and want to go home. But anyway, it's a debrief is a valuable
Do we
thing.
need to talk about protests? Because I know the invitational's coming up, and there may be that situation.
I would think that there would be protests. They have to come by and notify you that they're going to. Okay, it's 14.1. The protest committee operates under Rule 91. All protests must follow Rule 61 with the following exceptions. When a written protest is necessary, the protesting boat's representative must file the protest with the race committee no later than 30 minutes after the RC sounds the two sound signals that signify the end of racing for the day. That's something we virtually never do. Is at the end of the day, we're supposed to give two horn blasts that says, "We're done racing for today."
Well, especially, within 30 minutes, especially if we're down on A-arm
Now,
No.
all they got to do is come by and say, "Hey, race committee, I'm going to protest,
Okay.
vote 434."
All right. Gotcha.
So that we know that hey to look for them. And then the race committee will need to start putting together a protest committee. Now, all that doesn't have to happen that day. It can happen some other day.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little easier if it all happens, on that day, because everybody has to be available to, give testimony and all that. So coordinating schedules, if we're going to try to do it Wednesday after, we got to get them back to the lake and all this kind of stuff. That's a little bit cumbersome, but we have to have somebody to do to sit on the protest hearing that's somewhat knowledgeable about the rules, and that's one of the things that we're going to do in this class is we're going to have some protest hearings, because it's nuts that we don't have protests. I mean, no one ever protests anybody,
We're too friendly.
Yes,
We're not competitive enough.
But we should do it just for the sheer practice.
Sheer practice. Yeah.
But anyway.
Okay, next time I won't duck you when I come in on port.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Now, it is in here, interested, number C under 14.1. If all interested parties involved in the protest agree, so the protestee has to agree, and the protestor, or E, I guess, whatever, has to agree. The protest may be adjudicated under Appendix T of the racing rules, which means we just set an arbitrator. So we get Bernie, for example, and then he just decides who is right or wrong, and then his decision would be final. All decisions by the arbitrator will be final and binding on both parties, or the race committee, to appoint a neutral arbitrator. So obviously, if Bernie is the one that's doing the protesting from the committee vote, say he protests, me for some infraction that he saw me do, then he wouldn't exactly be a neutral arbitrator. So we'd need to get somebody else. To be arbitrator. But that is and it's in there because it is part of the preamble of Appendix T that if you don't put that in here, then Appendix T is not open to you. It says this appendix applies only if the notice of race or sailing instructions so state.
Right.
So right there in the beginning.
We just have to be aware of these things that that may come up during this invitation.
Yes, we're going to have a lot of competitive sailors out there, and there's going to be a lot going on. So protests are likely, and so we'll need to probably have at least some people on standby so that they're there at the lake and can hear a protest. But a protest can take a couple of hours to do to do the testimony and everything. So
right.
An arbitrator is a lot quicker.
Yeah. And sometimes you need that couple hours just to have them cool down.
Yes.
Believe me, I've been in protests before.
Yeah.
And it can get very heated.
Oh God, yes, yeah. Because there's different perspectives, and there could be multiple infractions going on,
Sure.
both by the protestee and the protested. So there's a lot going on.
Okay.
Okay, I'm out of town for a couple of weeks, so our next class will be August 2nd. The week I do get back, I get back on like a Tuesday, and we could have a class on that Thursday, but then they're having sailing class in here on that Thursday.
Yes.
So August 2nd is going to be our next opportunity to have class.
Okay.
and I'll send that email out to everybody. And I'm thinking we'll cover chapters 10 and 11 on that class. So hopefully more people will be here than just the two of us. But,
Yes.
Maybe they'll watch it on YouTube. Okay.